Hello, dear students. Welcome our lesson. And our lesson is named the discourse analysis. And the theme of our lesson is discourse markers, useful tips for adverbs and adverbial expressions. Let's see our agenda. So, what are the discourse markers? Discourse markers are the words or expression, often adverbs or adverbial expression, which help you understand the connection between what the speaker is saying and what has already been said. The connection between what the speaker has said and what is going to say now. What the speaker thinks about what he is saying. In this presentation, we will focus on this subject. Let's see the phrase talking of. We can use this phrase to change the direction of the conversation, but making a link to what has been said. For example, the students should attend as many lessons as possible, do homework, and study for their tests. Talking of homework, how useful do you think it is? This one here we can use talking of in order to make a link to what has been said in the first sentence. The next one, by the way or incidentally. We can use to introduce something you have just thought of or to change the subject completely. Let's see the example. So what is that? So that's what the plan for the rest of our lessons. By the way, would you change anything in the way grammar is taught in this course? Here you can see the difference of the first and the next sentence. Actually, in fact, as a matter of fact, we can use these adverbs like to introduce additional or unexpected information. For example, did you study the vocabulary list the teacher gave? Actually, or you can see any of this version, I hate vocabulary lists. They are stupid and useless. In any case, anyway. We use these adverbial expressions to introduce an idea that what you said before is less important than what you are going to say. Also, to return to the main topic after a digression. For example, there are some things you learn best in calm and some in storm. In any case, I think the learning is a lifetime journey. At least, we can use to introduce a positive point after some negative information. Also, to make you just have said less definite. For example, yes, I failed the test. At least I'm absolutely sure I did my best. Or the next example, education consists mainly of what we'll have learned, or at least that is what Mark Twain used to say. The next adverbial expression is as I was saying. So when do we use this phrase? We use to return to a previous subject, often after you have been interrupted. For example, as I was saying, if we don't have a whiteboard to use, we will have to do with a projector. The next one, on the whole, we just use this phrase to generalize the situation. For example, some people will never learn anything for this reason because they understand everything too soon. On the whole, what Alexander Pope was trying to say is that. The next one, all in all. We use this adverbial expression to say that you are taking everything into consideration. For example, literal translation and translation of meaning might both prove useful depending on the situation. But all in all, I think that translation of meaning is more suitable when working with novels. In this sentence, two sentences are just generalized and taking the consideration. The next one is after all. We use this adverbial expression to introduce a strong argument that the other person might have taken into consideration. For example, we should try and study. After all, the worst thing that can happen is that we fail the test. After all is used after the first sentences using some punctuational phrases. So the next one is besides. We use besides to add additional information or arguments. For example, and how is education is supposed to make me feel smarter? Besides, every time I learn something new, it pushes some old stuff out of my brain. Remember when I took that home winemaking course and I forgot how to drive. This is quoted by Homer Simpson. The next one, basically. Basically is used to introduce the most important or fundamental point. I have always thought my soundtracks do pretty good because they are basically professional equivalents of a mixtape I'd make for you at home. So the next one, obviously. Obviously is an adverbial expression that is used to introduce a fact that is very clear to see or understand. For example, obviously a government cannot get everything 100% right or wrong. Life is not black or white. So, I mean is used to make things clearer or give more details. For example, he is a good student. I mean, he goes to the lessons and does his homework even though he is a very busy person. In other words is used to say something again in another way. For example, fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. So it is taken from the rhyme. So the next one, otherwise. Otherwise is used to say what the result would be if something didn't happen or if the situation were different. For example, if you love someone, you can say it right then, out loud. Otherwise, the moment just passes you by. By Julia Roberts. The next one, as far as or is concerned, as regards or regarding. To introduce a new topic or to announce a change of subject, you can just choose one of these phrases. Let's say example. The lack of objectivity as far as foreign nations are concerned is notorious. From one day to another nation is made out of utterly depraved and fiendish, while one's own nation stands for everything that is good and noble. That's to say, it is also one example of adverbial expression that makes the discourse analysis clear. It is used to introduce an explanation or clarification of a point you have just made. For example, there are known knowns. These are things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That's to say, there are things that we know we don't know. But there are also unknowns. There are things we don't know we don't know. It is a quotation of one of the famous American politicians. So the next one, on the other hand or on the one hand. We use these phrases to introduce an explanation or clarification of a point you have just made. For example, the aim of science is, on the one hand, as a complete or comprehension is possible of the connection between perceptible experiences in their totality, and on the other hand, the achievement of this aim by employing a minimum of primary concepts and relation. So the next one is let's brainstorm these phrases, at least, in any case, as I was mentioned, and others. So as I was saying, on the whole, all in all, so after all, besides, just you can make one of them to choose and make your own situation in order to practice them and to use them in a proper way. I recommend you to just record them and again to analyze the phrases where it was used in a correct form. And the last one was on the one hand, and in future I hope our video lesson will be very fruitful, and you can use them in your assignments and studies in future. Thank you for your attention and goodbye.